Hello, everyone. This is David Esser. I'm the product manager for Cardano, and thank you for joining us in the first of our regular series of product updates and AMAs that we're going to be doing. And so we're starting this off, and we're excited to do it. I'm going to be joining you on a regular basis and doing these for you. So I wanted to start off by thanking Charles for flagging the start of these in his last AMA. He described them as releasing the Kraken. So I'm some sort of large cephalopod now, which I kind of like, as I'm sort of an ocean-focused guy. So thank you for that, Charles. And if you didn't see it, Charles' last AMA was pretty epic. The closing line of the last story was, so one ride on the devil's penis was enough. So you're a hard act to follow, Charles. We'll do our best. And in terms of these presentations, so we've been working to get these going, and we're starting to get them started. For each one, we're going to release at least one, maybe multiple, recorded real development progress demos. And so we're now orienting our development effort around these progress demos. And what we want to do is release them to you so you can see the same status that we see. And I want to remind you guys, it's not marketing content. These are real progress demos. And so they're not ultra polished. There's no glitz. There's lots of scrolling text. And that's on purpose. This is just honest, no bull progress. And this is for those of you who want real detailed technical status of where you are. And so that's what it is. There's no pretension of this being some fancy marketing effort. And we'll also be releasing weekly written development status reports. Those have been getting put on Cardano.org for a while. But they're also going to start to be posted on CardanoRoadmap.com, and so they'll be there along with the demos and these AMAs. And so roughly every 4 to 6 weeks, you'll see an AMA like this, where I start out and I'll summarize the main things that have happened and tell you about the demos we've released and what's in those and what those mean. And then first I'll answer some questions. We're collecting questions from different community channels. And so I'll answer those questions first, and then we'll answer the live questions from the AMA. So, and then all of this will be recorded, and as well as the other stuff I just mentioned, that'll all get posted on Cardano Roadmap. And so that'll all be there. And you can watch that for regular updates. And if you ever miss these, you can go to Cardano Roadmap and see the latest one. So if it doesn't fit in your schedule, no big deal. And so I want to let you know, though, we're not going to be giving detailed date predictions beyond what's in the roadmap. Because what happens is that at that level of granularity, the dates are too volatile. And so with first ever functionality, development time is sometimes it's unpredictable. Sometimes something blows up in your face and it just takes longer than you expected, and sometimes it goes faster. And so what really matters is the overall development velocity. And that's going really well right now. I'm really excited and happy with the pace of it. It's coming along really nicely. So we're intensely focused and pushing forward, but we're going to do it right and not cut corners. And so what we've decided to do, as you can tell from this, is we're going to be as transparent as we can be and provide you these regular progress demos recorded, so that you can see exactly what we're seeing. And that's pretty much at the extreme end of openness and transparency. It's really, it's sort of not possible to show you anything more, because you can see exactly what we've built. So that's the approach we want to take. We think that's the right way. Yeah, so let's start out and talk about what we just released. So we just released our development progress demo videos 1 and 2. And so they're covering some different progress of a similar area of functionality, and they're showing 4 major components integrated together into the node. And so you've got consensus, you've got network, and you've got ledger. Consensus, the process being to settle on what is the current chain. Network, communication between the components in the node, and then ledger, which is obviously the running ledger database. Those all 3 run within the node shell. And the node shell provides a container for them to run in. It also provides runtime monitoring and logging, start and stop configuration, that kind of stuff. And so those three things integrated and running within the node shell is what we're showing. And what you see in there, they're running on one machine, but they're communicating over TCP. And so that actually is replicating the communication as if it was across machines. We could actually be doing that demo across multiple servers or machines. However, that would just make it kind of a pain in the rear to demo. So it's on one machine just because that makes it easier to do. But it's running as if it was on multiple, and it would be simple to do that. So the other thing to note in demo 1 is that the memory there is only in RAM. So memory in that first one is not fully implemented. And then what you see in the second development demo is actually the same components, but implemented in their fully efficient, optimized implementation. So that consensus network and ledger, that's actually the code that will be running live. Those are fully optimized implementations versus an initial reference functional implementation. And then demo 2 also has full on-disk storage. And so we're storing the ledger state, we're storing the immutable database, we're storing volatile recent chains and blocks, and then snapshots. And so what you get with that is full recoverability capability, right? So you can just kill a node, kill a computer it's on, or you could go in and corrupt its database or delete its database, and it will recover automatically when it comes back on. And so the other thing you see in there is that they've taken great care to use the I/O subsystem really efficiently to get maximum throughput. So take a look at those if you're interested. That's development demo 1 and 2, the beginning of our series, and that's what you're seeing in those. Moving on to other new status. So I think many of you guys know we've had the Rust code base out on the testnet for a while, and what's there is a self node, a single node running on the machine. And so we've had stake pool operators playing with it, testing it, giving us feedback, and we've been making fixes and improvements to both the code and the documentation based on that. So really appreciate all the community's feedback and help. You guys are just amazing, and you're really helping us to make it better. And so the approach, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is that we went live to testnet with a minimum viable product, the bare minimum that you could go, and then we're doing a series of rolling releases to add functionality. And so the reason to do that is to get community feedback as we go on both the code, on functionality, and especially to refine the documentation. So, when stake pool operators get ready to start using that for real, and then that'll be good and kind of well-oiled. So then the next thing that's coming is networking. And so coming soon, the guys have been making good progress on that. And so you'll see that coming. And then after networking comes the incentives model. And so this is what you'll see happening in testnet on the Rust code base. And so the community engagement's been really kind of amazing. The community's created videos or training on how to do stuff. Even though we provided some, they came up with ways to do some things better, and they released their own training videos, which are really well done. People have written some really nice articles, translated them into languages beyond what we translate to. And so just a big thank you to everyone in the community who's been helping on the Rust testnet. It's been tremendous. So let's see, then the next thing just happened this week. We released Daedalus 0.14 as part of Cardano 1.6. And so you can find, there's a great video describing that new functionality by Darko. Darko created the video, really nicely done. Thank you for doing that, Darko. And it shows you what's there. What we have is a really nice loading screen, which is showing the system status as the system comes up to speed. And so you can kind of just see what's happening there. And if there's any issue with how your system is functioning with Daedalus, then you'd be able to see it easily there from the status icons. There's also a really nice screen showing blockchain data consolidation, so that if that's what you need to be doing in Daedalus, you can see the progress on that. So that's nice to have. And then there's also a new UTXO distribution screen, excuse me for my voice. And so that explains a little bit about UTXO, which we may cover in more detail on a future one of these. But the bottom line is it's sort of like the bills and the change in your pocket. And so you have a $5 bill and a $10 bill, and then and then change, which makes up part of those. And UTXO are kind of like that in your wallet. And it's helpful to see what distribution you have. It's helpful to see, do you have 100 quarters, or do you have a few $5 bills, or you have 100? And that just like in the real world can affect what transactions you can do. So that distribution screen is really nice for that. And then there's also a really nice detailed enhanced status and diagnostic window, which shows you everything about how the system is functioning. And if you were to have any issues, in the rare instance those things happen, then it's helpful when you're talking to customer support. So just trying to make things easier for people, and for when there are any issues, make it easier to address. So, and then finally, there's a really nice visual theme selection. So you can choose the way you want Daedalus to look for your mood, and then it'll look that way for you. So thank you for the Daedalus team. It's really wonderful progress. Also fixed a number of bugs. Things should work better for the people who are encountering those. And so we're really happy to get this one out. So looking forward to everyone's feedback on that. Then let's talk about recent news. So there was an article recently showing us as ranked #1 of all cryptocurrency projects in GitHub activity, GitHub commits. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing, of all development blockchain projects. And so we've been in the recent months kind of going up and down in between #1 and #3, depending on what's going on with different projects. But we're really proud to be there. We're working really, really hard. It's a huge team pushing really hard to get things done, and you can see it in all those commits. And so another thing that was neat is that we made it with Crypto Valley, a venture capital firm, releases an analysis, and they described us as one of the top 50 blockchain organizations. So thank you, Crypto Valley. We're proud of that. So that's the latest news. What I'll go into next is we'll talk about some of the hot topics and questions we've seen out of community channels. I'll try to address those for you, and then we'll go into some of your live questions here. So one of the first ones we've seen is, what do you think about the volatility of ADA coin price? And the truth is, Cardano it's a third generation decentralized application development platform, and so our success and the success of ADA is all about delivering a great product. And if we do that, then people will build applications on Cardano, and that will derive demand for ADA to pay for those smart contract transactions. And the people in the know will know that that demand is there, and therefore the speculators also buy it. And so releasing a great product is what will make ADA very valuable. And the ups and downs of the crypto market and all that volatility and emotion, that's not going to go away. That's crypto right now. It's probably going to be that way for a while. But the long-term value of ADA is driven by delivering a great product, and that will benefit all ADA holders, as well as the people who are trying to build platforms on it. And so that's what we focus on. This is definitely not investment advice, so please don't take it that way. But what matters is to make the product awesome, and awesome means that it solves real problems for real users at scale every day, all day long, and that's a platform for real systems in the real world. So that's what we think matters there. We get a fair amount of questions about Coinbase and Binance US, and guys, I apologize, I'm just not able to comment on those. I'm not allowed. But similarly, if we have an awesome product, then which gets strong adoption, then that makes exchanges want to support ADA. And we're actually seeing an amazing demand right now. So it seems like the growth in the interest of both exchanges and in third-party wallets to integrate ADA is going up exponentially. And so that's the way it looks from here. And I think you'll like the news that you see. But beyond that, we can't say more. So there's another question here from Craig through Crowdcast, saying, have there been coding difficulties where the system has faced difficulties integrating with all the nodes and all the features being installed? And thanks for the question, Craig, by the way. Not especially. The time that you see passing in our development, it's just because there's a lot to build. And so sometimes, you're building a big piece of functionality, and so it takes a little while. And the team's been working hard on it. The effort's been ongoing. It is true that when you add networking in between components, then you're able to test for more kinds of issues. And so then you find some things and you need to fix those things. But that's a normal part of software development. So I wouldn't say we've had any special issues there. It's coming along, and you'll see it soon. So we have Sander from Twitter. Thank you, Sander. How much ADA is required to start your own pool? And what are the benefits of doing that in comparison to delegating your stake to another stake pool? Just a sec. So there's no minimum amount, but if you have low quantities of ADA, then it's a proof of stake system. So that would mean your probability of being awarded the right to create a block, that's going to be really low, and so you're not going to create blocks very often. And that means that operating your stake pool would probably cost you more in just expenses and operating costs than you'd be getting in rewards. So you could do it if that's your hobby and that's fun for you, but it wouldn't make sense financially. And so that's why delegation is really important. With a few clicks, people who hold data will be able to delegate to a stake pool. And then you get rewards without having to operate a stake pool and bear that expense or have any of that knowledge, and get rewards for holding your ADA. So that's and that same function also provides the motivation and incentives to have stake pools operate. And the important part there is when you have people who are sort of professionals or pseudo professionals operating high quality stake pools run with really good systems, high bandwidth networking, then you get the kind of network uptime and network throughput that you'd like, right? So the whole purpose is to create an incentive system which drives the behavior, which pushes the proper functioning of the system going forward. So that is that's how that works. Let's see. Darren Shoemaker from the Cardano forum. What are the critical path items remaining to the Shelly mainnet release, and what are the outstanding risks? So the critical path items. We have an upcoming Byron fork into the BFT consensus era. We have to finish the network capability. We have to finish the incentives model implementation. We have to finish the wallet backend and front end integration into the node. We have to finish a new blockchain explorer, and then there's components for integration with exchanges and wallets that need to be upgraded to support all that new capability. So those are the main things. Those efforts are underway, but those are the big critical path items. And then in terms of risk, well, all of those items have execution risk. And additionally, when you think about an incentives model, humans behave unpredictably. So you can plan out what you think people will do, but you can't always know. And so we have that model parameterized so that based on how people behave in the real world after it's live, we can make adjustments. But those are the things I would see: some execution risks and some adjusting of the model. So, but no problem. Let's see, from Regis on the Cardano forum. Regis, by the way, thank you. Lots of great questions from Regis on Cardano forum. So what is the big picture for Daedalus and long-term goal? So like that platform, multi-currency, and so on. And so Daedalus will be both a multi-currency wallet, and there will also be an app platform. And so those are the plans. We have big plans for Daedalus. We want it to be the best wallet that you use. So let's see, again from Regis, is a light version of Daedalus planned? And so that's a really interesting question. There's a research and planning effort to enable capability that would allow us to validate the chain using just the block headers, which would be much faster. And then that would allow you to validate the chain within Daedalus much faster, and actually gives you full wallet capability, but it would feel light because it's much more efficient. And then, behind the scenes, it can continue validating further if needed, but you'd be able to validate that whole chain and enable transactions much faster. And so there also will be light, not necessarily from IOHK, but there'll be light wallets, but specifically for Daedalus, that's what's planned. Let's see, Stefan from the Cardano forum. With which strategy would you like to save or protect Cardano or the course of ADA in the future from the content access of whales and speculators who, in constant greed for profit, can also destroy the success or the course of a project like Cardano? So, I don't worry about those guys destroying Cardano. Their interests end up pretty aligned. The best strategy is to deliver a great decentralized application development platform, as I mentioned before. So that solves real problems for real people at scale. And if we do that, then we'll have utilization, and then utilization drives demand for ADA tokens and for transactions. And then the people in the know, those who hold large quantities of crypto, they keep their money in those projects which have for their currency. And so, again, not investment advice, but I think that the direction we're going, the things that we're building, the things that we're doing, create the environment which deliver long-term value for ADA. And we don't worry about the ups and downs too much. Let's see. Next question is Pablo from Crowdcast. How far along on Shelley are y'all? And then will Gogan kick off by 2021? And will we stay with the project? All good questions, Pablo. So let's see. We will deliver Shelley Q4 this year. As I mentioned, I'm not going to get into super granular dates. And then we expect Gogan to come in Q1 of 2020, possibly sooner, but I won't promise that. But definitely by Q1 2020. And so you can see the milestones on the roadmap, and we expect to deliver by those. And then will we stay with it after 2020? So we hope so. But Cardano ends up controlled by, driven by, led by the community. And so there will be proposals for what should be enhanced, improved, added to Cardano, and I'm sure we'll be having some of those. And we would love to continue, but in the end, you guys will decide that. And if we continue, then that's great. And if you decide someone else can do it, that's fine too. What really matters is that this thing we create, that it lives on and that it has a long, successful life, and we're very passionate about that. And we hope to continue and stay around for a long time and help with its growth and evolution after that. But anyway, that will be up to you guys. Let's see, from the forum, I apologize if I'm murdering, it's Esmedslactco. I apologize if I destroyed your name. Is there an estimate for hardware wallet support for Daedalus? Yeah, so for hardware support in Daedalus, it's a little embarrassing that Yoroi has that first. We would have liked to do it, but what we need for that is the new wallet format that's in the Shelley release. And so when the Shelley release comes, I would expect soon after we would see hardware wallet support. And so that's what's going on there. Let's see, also from the same user, the official roadmap is not updated very frequently. The last update was in July. Could we get more frequent updates? Yes, absolutely. This is actually the beginning of that. So already we've been releasing weekly dev reports, but they weren't going there. And so they will start to be posted there. And then we will also be posting the development progress demos into the roadmap. And then these AMAs will also go there. So you'll see regular status there. And I would suggest that going back to the Cardano roadmap and looking in the status section, that'll be a good place for you guys to see what's going on. And so yes, you'll definitely be seeing more regular status updates. Let's see, from Einstein, how often do you plan to do these update series? Roughly every 4 to 6 weeks. I don't want to just come on here just to blather on if we don't have anything to say. I'd like it to be centered around recent events and especially development progress that we can tell you about. But every 4 to 6 weeks, and maybe every now and then faster than that if there's something to tell you about. Let's see. Will Yoroi support, let's see, who's this from? From Adnan on Crowdcast. Thanks, Adnan. Will Yoroi support staking and delegation after Shelley? So yes, Yoroi does plan. I mean, I won't answer for them, but I can tell you they've told me they do plan to support delegation and staking. So the answer there is yes. And then the second part of the question is, do we have any plans to support the Middle East or Indo-Pakistani region. And so, you know, Daedalus is already architected to make it relatively easy to add new languages. But the ongoing translation effort, there's quite a bit of effort there. And so I don't have a decision for you on when or if we would be supporting those regions with language localization, except to tell you that we've made it easy to add new languages, at least architecturally. So I don't have a specific answer on that one. So those are the questions that we collected from the community. What I'm going to do now is come in here and see the questions you've asked. You can, by the way, if you go into the question interface, you can vote on questions. So, that way you can tell me which ones you'd like me to answer most urgently, and I'll do that. So let's see, what is the current, we answered what is the current critical path, and how confident are you releasing Shelley very stable and reliable product by December of this year? I'm going to promise it by Q4, which is sort of the same thing as December, but just to make sure more clear. Sooner would be great, but we'll see. And I think it's going to be a great product. We are testing it very carefully. We have a lot of effort on that. And as you know, we've taken a very careful approach in the process all along. So, and we will continue to test it very thoroughly, and we won't release it if it's not stable. So I think it's going to be nice and stable. Let's see, we covered how often we plan to do these updates. And yes, it won't be just Shelley only, but it's intended to be mostly, recent development updates. I suppose if we have questions about future functionality, we could cover that. But the intention is mostly for current status, what's going on now. Let's see. Is there a lot of interest from dApp developers in Gogan? Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Thanks, Bob. So yes, and in fact, IOHK has some projects through its professional services group where they were even starting to do it now. And one of the interesting things about Gogan and the smart contract platform, Plutus, Marlowe, which you're familiar with, is that it's been under development for a long time, and pretty close to done. So the primary effort for Gogan, after we release Shelley, is going to be integrating what's already built into Cardano, because the smart contracting platform, Plutus and Marlowe, they're already more or less done, which is really exciting. And there are already people creating applications against that technology, because it right now can run against what we call a mock chain. So it behaves as if it's running on a blockchain, but it isn't yet. And so there's a lot of interest in that. And what we see is that the people who really, they want to build a truly large enterprise class, a mission critical application that they need to be able to count on. And the organizations that do their research really carefully, they come to us and say, we like what you're doing. We think you guys are taking the right approach. We want to build on your platform. And so they're talking to us about that. And in some cases, they want us to help them. And in others, they want to do it themselves and just know about that. So lots of interest. Any progress on Ethiopia and Africa? There is progress, but I'm going to stay out of the details on that. I'm not that guy. I'm the Cardano product manager. But the amazing thing is, and what's exciting to me about what we're doing in Africa is, let's think about what's going to happen in the future when you have large organizations, you've got governments, municipalities, cities, states, and large corporations, big NGOs, when they're trying to decide what to do in terms of choosing a platform. And so I've been in that environment a long time. Throughout a large part of my career, I was either the person needing to make some of those choices, or I was the person advising the folks who needed to make those choices for choosing a development platform for different kinds of applications. And so one of the things which is most important in that selection process are live reference applications, implementations of similar kinds of problems being solved at real scale, solving problems for real people in the real world. And that's the gold standard in terms of selecting a platform. What you want to be able to see is that the platform has examples of being able to solve the kinds of problems that you need to solve if you're going to adopt it and use it, and that they're able to do that truly at scale. This is not some proof of concept. And so That's what's so exciting about what we're doing in Africa and other developing nations. And so in those places, there's all manner of problems that they want to solve. There's no existing systems for it. So it's not that you would say, go to the city of Chicago and say, well, maybe there could be a new property registry solution. No, there is no a property registry solution. They need one. And there's no system to displace. There's no years of debate about how exactly we would replace an old system. There also isn't much competition from other parties wanting to build that system. And if there's regulation around it, which you would normally run into in developed countries, well, it either doesn't exist as regulation, or you might already be working with the government ministers that are responsible for that regulation. So if the regulations need to change, they can. And so all of that, all those characteristics of that environment create a scenario where you can make really fast progress in getting real applications built using Cardano, so that we can show it solving real problems, not hello world, hello 5 million people using a cryptocurrency. Now that's something to talk about. Hello large community of agricultural community using it for supply chain management in a very heterogeneous environment. That's real, and so that's why we find the projects so exciting over there. It's also just it's very personally satisfying when projects that we can do could make a real difference in people's lives. Going back to the metaphor I used, if Chicago replaced its real estate registration system with a new one, I don't know that would make a giant difference in anybody's life. But if you add a real estate ownership registry into a country that didn't have one before, then suddenly people have a way to know for sure that their family will continue to own the property that they've owned for a long time, because no one can come along and just say, oh, I actually own that, and I have the money to pay off the right people to say otherwise if you don't disagree. And so it's just, we also love the fact that those projects could make a big difference. So thanks for the questions, Hans. That was a good one. Let's see. Both Cardano and current Ethereum has settlement time as 20 seconds. Why Cardano with Shelley should have higher transactions per set than current Ethereum of 15. So we don't have exact metrics yet, but the thing to think about is, if you're doing a system with mining, then it's inherently less efficient. And if you're doing a system with proof of stake, then you don't have those unnecessary calculations to do it. So it should be inherently faster. So then there's other phases you can see in our development roadmap of Basho, where we want to add on even to you could call it the base TPS that we'll get. We're definitely not going to be satisfied with that, even if it's wonderful. And so the way that you can increase performance is you got horizontal and vertical. And the easiest way to think about that is horizontal scaling is like in a grocery store, you add more checkout lines. So with more checkout lines, you get more people going through. And vertical scaling is, well, what can we do to optimize each individual checkout line and make it go faster? And so we have efforts underway for both of those. We have a long ongoing research project for how we're going to do sharding so that we can do more checkout stations. And additionally, research projects underway for vertical scaling solutions. So anyway, you'll see lots of that coming. How far along with Shelley are y'all? Yeah, we answered that one. Thank you, Pablo. Old upgrade roadmap. Yeah, so that is still relevant. Now, this question is, sorry, I should tell you guys. What about the old upgrade roadmap for exchanges? What you presented at the Cardano Effect podcast, is it still relevant? And it is. And so what you see in that roadmap is that we have a Byron hard fork coming, and that puts us into the Byron BFT timeframe, which is a short one. And BFT is Byzantine fault tolerance. It's a very simplified version of the Ouroboros consensus protocol. And so you'd say, well, then why implement this simple one in between the two? And the reason is we want a very simple meeting place for the two, rather than have one complex Ouroboros protocol and then the new Shelley more complicated one. It's going to be easier and simpler to have them meet in a simple place. And so that's still the way it's going. We'll still do the Byron hard fork, and then we'll have that Byron BFT going for a relatively short period of time, and then there'll be another hard fork for Shelley to usher in that era. Let's see. Will the system be resistant to quantum attacks when the Voltaire phase is over? So two parts to the answer. We do have plans for quantum resistance, but I'm not ready to put them in a specific era yet. So we'll get back to you on that one. We're actually working on that now. So, but I can't assign it to an exact era yet, but I can tell you that that's an ongoing effort of research. So let's see. Do you have plans to introduce your own hardware equipment? That's interesting. So we have a really wonderful community member named Marcus Guffler who put our node on a rock Pi, which was really exciting to see because the power requirements there are so much less than anything else. But that's not something that we're releasing as recommended hardware. So we don't have any plans for that, although I wouldn't be surprised if some community members do that. I can say just a brief word. Can you please talk about Confidio's partnership? So this is a partnership in Germany with an entity which can help us with reach and relationships with parties that may want to implement projects on Cardano. Just a recent relationship announced by the Cardano Foundation. And so I'm going to leave the details of that announcement to them because they're the ones who did that. But that's an exciting development and really an example of the value that the Cardano Foundation is delivering by helping us drive the ecosystem. Let's see. Yeah, so is there a place to find out what is added to the Plutus ebook when new things get added? There's no formal place, but we'll definitely have to make some regular updates to tell folks when they should go look at that again. So we'll make a note and do that. That's definitely there. What I can tell you further is that there's, we're perfectionists, so over time there'll be lots of new things and improvements added there. It's great as it is, but we can always make it better, and so I hear about conversations about that. Let's see. I wonder how non-tech people should vote on future projects to be built on Cardano. So this voting and the governance stuff will come later in the Cardano 2020 roadmap. It's going to come by the end of 2020. It won't take technical skill. So in the same way that delegation will be easy, a few clicks, voting on those things should be easy too, although there's the knowledge involved if the direction is a technical choice. So it's not that it would take technical skill to vote, but it might take technical knowledge to make a good choice. What I would expect is you'd get in any scenario where there's information about those updates, the information about them and the debate around them needs to be facilitated through that Cardano improvement process interface. And I would expect there would be lots of community channels for it too. So we have multiple research projects underway on this. So there's research going in both to the treasury side of governance and to the Cardano improvement process side. And so we haven't decided exactly how that's going to be implemented because we're looking at the output of that research. We're also looking to see, some great projects are trying things in that area right at the moment. And so we'll have the benefit of learning from the things that they do Also looking at all other research being conducted, and then our own, and combining all of those ideas to make a good decision. So that's what's happening there. Any plans for a mobile Daedalus? Not right now. Yoroi is awesome. So if you want a mobile version of an ADA wallet, kudos to the Yoroi guys. That's a beautiful piece of software. So I recommend it if you want a mobile one. New unforeseen challenge from Julian 3. Any new unforeseen challenges discovered? Sorry, this interface just scrolled on me. I think the question was new unforeseen challenges discovered on testnet. Question disappeared. No, not especially. As I mentioned earlier, as adding the network functionality gives you an ability to test a whole bunch of new potential issues, and so you find some stuff as you're doing testing and you fix it. But that's a normal part of software development. There's a question here from Ryan. Thank you, about Ouroboros Crypsinus. I'm going to save that one for next time because there's some interesting developments about privacy. And so I'll answer that question more completely in a future AMA. But thank you for the question, Ryan. I won't forget it. When phase 2 testnet? I'm not going to give you a date, but officially and exactly soon. Sorry, guys. Can you speak on interoperability of ERC20 tokens moving to Cardano with Gogan? I can't tell you an exact era or timing for that, except that interoperability is kind of a core tenet, core part of our philosophy in Cardano. We definitely are not seeking to be an island or a neutral Switzerland. We want to interoperate with as many projects as possible, and ERC20 tokens will obviously be one of the most important things. There's multiple issues there. There's just being able to have transfer of value, which should be fluid, but there should also be an ease of potentially porting an application onto Cardano that might have been built before on Ethereum, which could either be a porting effort, a compiling into a new code base, or just having that run directly based on what people want to do. If you're going to compile it into the new code base, that would get you substantially far down the road, but then you'd have to fix things because it won't compile perfectly across. If you're on the other side is just getting Ethereum code to run on Cardano, which is definitely something in the plans. So no timeline, but very important. Oh, that's a really good question, Isaac. Since Gogan and Shelly are being developed in parallel, is it possible for Gogan to be released before Shelly? So it's not. And the major task after Shelly is to integrate Plutus and Marlowe, the Gogan capability, into Shelly. And the reason is because Shelly includes specific implementations of the Ouroboros protocol, and the implementation of the Gogan capability happens in the same place in the code. In some cases, the integration could be 50 or 100 lines of code, but that's right in the core of the node. So those are 50 to 100 of the most careful lines of code you might have, and you need the Shelly capability in order for it to make sense. Will there be an IOHK conference next year? I hope so, but I don't know for sure. Will there be an integration of ledger wallets with Daedalus from Jan Beyer? Thank you, Jan. Yes, we're very eager for that to happen. I think I mentioned earlier what's needed there is the wallet format within the Shelly release. And so then I would expect ledger wallet support pretty quickly after that. I am from Niek Shardima. I am a software development company. I am we're working on a large social platform for schools. And from what I learned about blockchain, I think it will bring a giant step forward. How do I get in touch with a blockchain expert? So you can call us. We have a professional services group at IOHK. Otherwise, there are all manner of different kinds of third-party blockchain development companies. And so the main thing that I would emphasize if you're choosing one is to talk to them about projects they've done before and that they have familiarity with the kind of functionality that you're trying to implement to make sure that it goes well for you. How long after Shelley do you see Foresee, Plutus, and Marlowe being added? I have them separated by 1 quarter, and it might even be possible that it's faster than that. As Plutus and Marlowe are really far along, and as I mentioned, the primary thing is integration. So really excited to see that. Have we finished replacing the old Serakel code? That's a really good question, Richie. All freaking most is the answer, and there are people who are going to probably hold ceremonies when that happens. The transition into the Byron era gets rid of almost all of it, and then it will be utterly and completely gone with Shelley. And a lot of people are really excited about that. So. Looking for some more here. How can I find out how to build on Gogan for an enterprise app? It's a great question, Julian. Search for Plutus and for Marlowe, and you'll find a lot of content about them, and including things that you can already start to try building on now. It's already there to experiment on and trial on. There's also courses and a book. And so you can find those online, and those will help you get started. And then please give us feedback about all that content, because we want to keep making it better. There's a question from Lee about Tangem and the use of the cards. And Lee, it's a really good question. And I'm going to save it for a future AMA, because I can answer it more completely about that project later. I can't get into the details until the relationship proceeds a little bit farther. Will there be any official tutorials provided by IOHK for Plutus? Definitely, and there's already some stuff out, some already educational materials out. Do I like working for IOHK? Yes, it's very exciting. The meetings to me feel like running, like a kid running, candy store to a toy store to another toy store, back to a candy store. The topics are fascinating, and we're aiming at solving real problems at scale, as I mentioned, and making a real difference. And I have a huge passion for that. I think that what Cardano is trying to build, trying to deliver, needs to exist in the world. I really believe it's needed, and I want to be a part of delivering it, which is why I came to work on it. All right, so I think let's do one more. What is my take on Libra? I think it's scary, first of all, because you have centralized control of a spending apparatus and tracking, which means that not only might Facebook know all of your social interactions, but also how you spend your money. And we know from various studies that knowing all those things can give someone the substantial control over someone potentially. And so that's scary. However, the effort in general is likely to bring a substantial amount of benefit to the blockchain industry in general. You have squads of attorneys that can work with the countries that need to do so to refine their regulation, to figure out what that's actually going to be. And so that might happen soon, and that would be great for all of us. You'll have huge marketing and usability teams refining the user interfaces for key pair combinations, which are new concepts to most users, public and private keys and such. And so having people helping to explain that to users, as well as huge teams refining user interfaces for those interactions, is likely to be a benefit. So as long as it doesn't end up controlling all of us, I think that Libra will be a net positive. It may end up being the blockchain's sort of AOL moment, where AOL wasn't the internet, but it was a lot of people's on-ramp to the internet, and they got familiar with it, and eventually they moved on mostly from AOL and they used the actual internet. And so maybe that's it. I hope that that's what it is. If it comes to dominate all of our lives, then it would be kind of frightening. All right. Okay, guys, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for all the questions that came through through the social channels and on here, and thank you for joining me here for the first of these. I'm really excited to get these started. As I mentioned, you're going to see these regularly. The pattern will be that we are releasing the progress demos with reports about what that means in a written format. And then we'll record these, pulling in questions that you would ask about those when we release them, and post all that online so you can see it. And then we'll hold these AMAs, and I'll answer all the questions I can for you. And if sometimes I can't, well, then I'll take that question and go get the answer and bring it back to you. So thank you guys so much. You guys are the community that makes all this possible and makes it happen. And so we're grateful to you for participating and helping us move things along. And I'll look forward to talking to you guys next time again soon. So thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, talk to you soon.